Alright, what's going on, Forgotten Nation? I'm your host, FG, and today we're looking at Wonder Boy. This is an arcade game released by SEGA and licensed by Escape in 1986. And if the name doesn't sound familiar, or if you're thinking, Wonder Boy, is that an RPG series? You're not wrong. And that's because many will probably recognize the gameplay loop here, as it was licensed under a different name for various different ports. That name being Adventure Island. To explain a little more, let's just quarter up and begin the gameplay. So, in Wonder Boy, you play as the titular character, Wonder Boy, as he is on a quest to venture on foot across the island to rescue his girlfriend Tina from the Dark King. And the gameplay loop here is very straightforward. This is a platforming arcade game where the objective is to get from point A to point B. Of course, you have your main weapon being this stone hammer. But the rest here is mostly on foot, aside from a very special pickup right here we're about to get, the skateboard. The idea here, though, is that there are many enemies, and you are going against the clock. But the way the game handles it is actually pretty cool. With the main gameplay loop here being that you need to avoid the enemies, there are many parallels to other games that came before it. Though the one thing I like here is definitely how it handles the timer, and that's in the form of a vitality meter. Meaning that if the time runs out up top, you're gonna lose a life regardless. But it's always ticking down, sometimes faster in the later stages. So how do you replenish it? By grabbing all the fruits and veggies that pop up on the stage. And the further you get into the game, and sometimes even by obtaining some negative items that we might see later, that vitality meter is the one thing, aside from the enemies, that could easily lose a life. And for good reason, it's an arcade game. But that was the first level, and we did collect the doll. Now, the dolls are very important in Wonder Boy, because you actually need to collect one in every stage in order to get to the last area of the game. The game is broken up into 8 areas, each having 4 levels each. And in order to get to Area 8, you need to collect each doll in each level of the game. Without them, you can't get the game's ending, and you'll never rescue Tina from the Dark King. But what we have here really is a simple game. I would say it's as simple as something like Mario, and for good reason too. And I really do love that it's another demonstration of how a platform game could work well in the arcades. Because before this was Pac-Land, and that was said to have been a big inspiration for many games, including Mario. But I've never really seen any platforming games like Wonder Boy that, at the time anyways, made use of stuff like the vitality meter. And just offers a unique switch on the gameplay. Besides simply trying to get from the start to the beginning as fast as you can, now you're trying to be more strategic in how you move. It's worth mentioning also that when we are riding the skateboard, not only are we moving faster, but saving vitality, you can't actually stop. And that could actually make sections like these, where there's a lot more platforming involved and moving platforms, a lot more difficult. This is a game, and because it's in the arcades, that will get difficult later on, but it starts off generally easy, that it's not too much of a quarter burner. Crazy to say about an arcade game, I know. But yeah, this is Wonder Boy. It's crazy to think, though, that Wonder Boy, the name anyways, would be something completely different as the series went further on. I'm sure most people know about the later games, especially Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap. Of all the games in the series besides Wonder Boy here, that is the one game I recommend to anyone, especially the remaster that came out for systems like the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox, Steam, PlayStation. If you haven't checked it out yet, try the remake of Wonder Boy The Dragon's Trap. You're not going to regret it. It's actually a lot similar, because at the time of this recording, to the Alex Kidd Miracle World remake, where it's an old game that really got remixed, remastered, and looks great by today's standards, but it still holds true to the original formula. But to talk a little bit more about the original series, Wonder Boy would become much more like an RPG, both in its sequels and its later games. There's nothing wrong with the direction that the series took. but it never really ventured back into this original format. That honor goes to what Escape would do when they were trying to port it to different consoles, namely the Nintendo Entertainment System, and we are going to avoid that mushroom because that's going to do bad stuff to the vitality meter. So Escape wanted to port it to the NES and some other consoles that Sega really didn't want. The other reason was because they would have to pay Sega royalties for the Wonder Boy name. So Sega owns Wonder Boy, but they don't actually own the gameplay loop here. That belongs to Escape. So what did Escape do? They completely changed Wonder Boy. And so Wonder Boy became Adventure Island. Wonder Boy became... I actually don't know the Adventure Island character's name, my bad. And all the levels and the original Adventure Island are one-to-one with this arcade version of Wonder Boy. They're the exact same game, they're just on different consoles and have different names. But it's the later, it's what they would do with the series later on that makes all the difference. Wonder Boy 2 was essentially a Monster Land, and Adventure Island would contain the same gameplay loop seen here. So if you ever want more of Wonder Boy like it is here, but you probably know how the rest of the series goes, play Adventure Island, because Adventure Island does a lot more with the formula we see here. And I believe the last original game of the series was on the Super Nintendo, if I'm not... I might be wrong, please let me know in the comments. But I know that it's made up of several different classic games, the Adventure Island series. And unlike the arcade version of Wonder Boy, even though there are other ways to play, like the Sega Master System, it hasn't been that easy to come by this arcade version. The only reason I'm playing it here today is because of the Astro City Mini, and even then that was very rare in comparison. But Adventure Island, it's a lot more easier to come by. I'm hoping it'll eventually make its way to Nintendo Switch Online, in some capacity at least. But at least one of the series is easier to come by. Nowadays though, Wonder Boy is actually owned by Konami, and that means that they can do whatever they want with it. Just like Castlevania, Bomberman, you name it. So what did they do? Well, sometime back they actually did release a remaster of this arcade version. Essentially it was Wonder Boy returning to his roots. Even though most people know it now as Adventure Island, but that's besides the point. I haven't actually seen any gameplay of the new version, but I do know it's in 3D. Not 3D, it's more like 2.5D, but the point is, it's different enough, but it's still the same, if that makes sense. It's not going to appeal to everyone, and it's for that reason that even I haven't really checked it out. But I'm kind of glad to see that eventually it did come full circle and return to its roots. I don't know what's happened with Adventure Island, or what the future of that series holds, but I don't think we're going to see it for a while. A long while, anyways. Because the company behind Escape did go defunct, and I actually don't know who has the rights to Wonder Boy now. But anyways, this complete... But... that happens. Well, we just defeated the boss in the first area, which did pull another Bowser trick where it wasn't actually the Dark King. But, at the end of every area, they do drop an item. The items actually don't do anything. They're just, as I mean, like, say, Donkey Kong, how it's, items from, Pauline. That's all it is. It's just to represent that you made this far in the game's campaign. So instead of just, like, numbers, that says, how far you made it. But, let's try this again, and hopefully it's not gonna have me fall to my death. There it is! I don't know what happened there. It's... I don't know. But, anyways, tips for playing, Wonder Boy, because I feel like I should probably do something like this in, future gameplay sessions. In the earlier stages of the game, you're tempted to run. You are able to run if you hold down the hammer button, but, very early on, I feel like you don't need to run. You're just fine with the standard walking motion, because you're not going to drain vitality that fast. It's pretty generous early on. When you see fruits and veggies, you're going to want to always grab them, because eventually, especially later on, you're going to find that it becomes hard to replenish the stamina, the vitality. So you want to try to keep it up as you go on. Areas where there's not a whole lot going on, it may be a good idea to run, as far as I can tell, there's no real punishment to running versus just moving still. But the best thing you could do is always use the skateboard, because the skateboard is going to be what can help guarantee your victory in a stage, even if you're not able to stop on the skateboard. And some of the challenge does come because of the skateboard, that you can't stop on it. And one above all, if you're playing the arcade version, always collect the dolls. You can go very far in the game, but it's not going to matter if you don't collect the dolls, because you're not going to be able to complete the game otherwise. But overall, I still think the game is pretty straightforward. It does get difficult, especially with its platforming, but I feel like it's something that, as long as you got some extra quarters, and you have some time to devote to it, I do think this is probably one of Sega's best games. Even if it's technically not Sega, it's Escape. Alright, let's try this again with the falling clouds. Oh yeah, one more tip too. As I mentioned, some of the golden eggs do have negative attributes. So, think of it like a gamble. Don't take them on because you can. Consider whether it's going to give you something good or whether it's a threat in the making. Alright, let's go. Ah! Alright, last time. I want to see how far I can get. This is probably the furthest I've gone on a casual session. Trying with like save states and stuff, I've made it at least to Area 4, but I've never really taken the time to really see the game to the end. And I feel like that's something I should probably do in my free time. But alright, that's game over. So of course we have the high scores, which we'll put mine in, but Astro City Mini is not going to make much of a difference. Thanks, Sega. And good. So yeah, this has been Wonder Boy. Probably one of my favorite arcade games, but easily from the list of the Sega catalog, this is one I would highly recommend anyone if you find in the wild or you're able to get your hands on the arcade version, give it a go. And if you aren't able to find the arcade version, the Adventure Island series is just as great, if not offering a lot more with the later entries of where the formula could go. So do check it out. But that's going to do it for this gameplay session of Wonder Boy. Alright, if you like this video, be sure to leave a like and comment down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Ooh, fruit! Wait, points? Really? Only points?